Sure shot, baby.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
kanina, you talked about some of the names that are applying for the draft, but there were also names that we haven't touched on that I believe deserves recognition, like Alvin Pasaol or Troy Reich, Mikey Williams, and Frankie Johnson, and even some college stalwarts like Larry Muyang, Jerick Ahanmisi, June Manzo. So among the people that you will know that will apply for the PBA draft, since the situation's pretty tough now, the draft seems to be really deep, and like the spots of the teams didn't really decrease because there's so many good players also in the PBA. So what's your thoughts about the way the outcome of the draft for this March, I believe, and who are some of the players that aren't that popular but you believe will have a good impact right away in the next season on April?
I think we definitely will have a very deep draft. But the PBA is still thinking about whether or not to amend a requirement in their rules that a field foreigner must not only have a Philippine passport, but must also have a Bureau of Immigration and Deportation
Yeah, that one.
certification,
Yeah,
and
I
also a
saw that.
Department of Justice confirmation. So there are some field foreigners with Philippine passports, but with no BID or DOJ approval.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that will mean Jason Brickman, Jeremiah Gray, Brandon Ganuelas Rosser,
Yes.
and even Ty Hill
Yeah,
um,
I saw.
fall into that category. It
Yeah.
may mean their disqualification. Um, for me, you know, I feel sad because these guys have Philippine passports, and here we are, we're we're barking at the FIBA tree, saying that field foreigners should be classified as locals and not as naturalized imports to be eligible to play for the Philippine national team. And in the PBA, we're being restrictive. Um, I think we should welcome a field foreigner, especially since it's proved that they have Filipino heritage. And for so long as they have a Philippine passport, that means they acquired that legitimately. Um, this requirement of the PBA was done back in 1999,
Matagal
and
na,
this was
yeah.
because there was a proliferation of Phil shams.
Yeah,
They
I
were able to
remember.
get yeah, they were able to get somehow their Filipino passports
Yeah.
and their certifications through some dubious means. But that's not happening anymore now. Those days are gone. Um, Sonny Alvarado, Al Sagova, Rob Parker, those are three Felshams who will never see the light of day
Yes.
to try to play in the Philippines as locals. So um, I think maybe the PBA should revisit it. But at the same time, it is a rule, and if that rule continues, if that rule is still there, then that rule has to be followed. Um, we can't just amend the rule overnight. So it has to be rethought and revisited. And if the PBA will decide to keep the rule until further rethinking till next year, then that's the rule. The PBA will always decide for the benefit of the league, for the benefit of the athletes, for the benefit of the team owners, and for the fans. So whatever the PBA decides, then we know it's for the benefit of everyone. So if they decide that to disqualify these field foreigners, then
Mm.
we know that it's there is a reason for that. My opinion, however, is that maybe we should discard that rule now. But be it as it may, um, to answer your question, yes, there are several blue chippers coming into the draft. I think Santi Santillan is a blue chipper. I think Jamie Malonzo is a blue chipper. I think Aljun Malesio, Joshua Munzon, those guys are blue chippers. Alvin Pasool, if he breaks down his weight a little bit more,
Yeah.
I think he'll be a heck of a player. I mean,
Yeah.
I talk to him all the time, even when he was with 3-on-3. I already
Yeah.
advised him that maybe he should apply for the PBA draft
Yeah.
because there is a PBA rule that if you skip the PBA draft for 2 consecutive years, you could be blacklisted.
Yeah. That's a
Uh,
new rule. Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's a very important rule to remember. So I'm glad Alvin is joining. I'll never forget that game when he played for UP against LaSalle and he scored was it 42 points or
Yeah.
something like that?
I remember
Or
that. He
he
attempted
was
like 40 shots or
he
something.
was
Yeah.
just he was just
Yeah.
amazing, and that was a duel, the shooting duel he had with Ambala,
Yeah, I
and
remember. Yeah.
yeah, so Alvin is a heck of a player. I think he'll be a he'll be a great addition to the PBA. But again, your point about the PBA teams being only 12 and the lineups already being stacked, how are you going to be able to accommodate these blue chippers coming in
Yeah.
the draft? That's really a tough uh, situation for all the teams because it's going to be survival of the fittest. You're going to have to make room only for the best players. And if you're a marginal player, um, you're going to have to fight for your spot. I guess it's the same for any school team. When you open tryouts for a school team, you're going to get as many as 100 players
Exactly. Yeah.
hoping to be able to make it to the lineup of 16. So um, some will make it, some will not. Some will be called, some will not. Some will be chosen, some will not. And at the end of the day, I think that's what's going to happen. The PBA will be a much better league for it because that means the players who will survive the tests and of making a team will be the best possible talent available.
Do you believe there's at least like a Aaron Black in that draft class, like a 18th pick, like someone not really well advertised, like people don't really talk about them, but then they're gonna make an impact if you give them the opportunity. They might crack a rotation spot right away, even if I don't know they'll have more minutes than the first rounders. Do you have any name in mind that you believe
Yeah,
with that
I'm
position?
I'm thinking that maybe someone like a Will Navarro, who is confirmed to join the draft. Um, he might make an impact, depending on the team that gets him.
Yeah,
He's in the Gilas camp right now. He's gaining confidence. He's played for Ateneo. He also played for Sambeda.
yeah,
Someone like him, he could be what you call a sleeper.
yeah,
Not He's not in the radar of any team, but all of a sudden he could spring a surprise. Maybe even someone like a James Laput,
mm-hmm.
who may not be a first rounder, but who knows? He could come in the second or third round, and he might do something for himself. Larry Muyang, I'm not sure whether he'll be an immediate factor in the PBA. He's got to work on his work ethic. That's for sure. I think he's got the height. He's got the range. I think if he were to be more focused on improving his game, I think he'll be a good addition to the PBA. Um, Maybe you have someone like I don't know, Philip Manalang of UE,
Point
the
guard.
point guard.
Yeah,
People say that he's very small,
yeah,
but that guy plays with a lot of heart. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I've seen him play for UE. I've also seen him play in the PBA D
League.
League.
Yeah,
Um, this guy plays tough. He's a gamer,
yeah,
and who knows? Maybe he could crack a lineup, maybe as a third tier guard in a team, and work his way up. Um, there. Um, Troy Reich, I'm not sure if he'll be a first rounder. Um, he really didn't do much for NU in his
yeah,
season, but
yeah,
he has the credentials. Although he played very sparse minutes for Wake Forest,
yeah,
it's still a Division 1 team. It's also the team where Tim Duncan played. So,
yeah, yeah,
um, so maybe Troy Reich might be able to crack a lineup, but if you go down the line, you'll be able to find some players there who could surprise all of us. Um, there may not be the benefit of a combine because of the restrictions of the pandemic. So there may be limited opportunities for teams to evaluate the skills and of the players. But going by videos, going by experience, going by what you've seen them play in the past, um, I think there's good enough evidence to go by in choosing which players you like if you're a PBA team.
Yeah, I agree also with William Navarro because he's a system player. Like in San Beda, he wasn't really, I don't know, like used well in their system. But then when he went to Ateneo, he excelled in Coach Tab's system, and he complemented well with Ange because he can play out and then Ange can play in. So I believe if he goes to a great system in the PBA, he can excel and get spot minutes. Maybe like how Arvin Tolentino also excelled with Ginebra because he was in the system of Coach Tim. Coach Tim was just shoot threes and play defense. He didn't need to do much more like how he did in FEU and then Ateneo previously. So if Will gets a team where he will be used well as a finesse big or finesse forward, I think he could also excel in the PBA at a quicker pace compared to the other players that may be more popular than him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the PBA off season now, there was the awards and there's also the Vic Manuel trade rumors, and I believe I read a while ago that NLEX wants to get a big because they lost Boy Aram 2 conferences ago, and they don't know who to. They don't have any other big anymore except JR Kenyahan, I think. So I think Yang Yao wants a big, and in the article I believe it said he wanted Bo Belga or Justin Chua or Vic Manuel. So what are your reactions to the Vic Manuel trade demand, and where do you think he fits well? And how about also the NLEX big man where they need to fill in the hole?
Well, I think Soyud has done very well for NLEX. In fact, he got a call up to Gilas,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm sure Coach Chieng will be very happy with his development. Um, as far as Vic Manuel is concerned, my understanding is he's already come to an agreement with Alaska that he will stay with them maybe for the
Oh,
next conference,
yeah.
and then maybe after the first conference of the next season, if things don't do don't go well for some reason or another, then maybe they'll explore the possibility of a trade. But I think he's staying put at the moment. Um, as far as the bigs requirements, there will always be a need for a big, whether you're a San Miguel with a Junmar Fajardo, because you don't know, like what happened with San Miguel
His
when
injuries.
Junmar
Yeah.
got injured. That
Yeah.
you really need someone to fill in. So um, anytime you're a big, there will always be a market for your services. I think Meralco is lucky that they have an Almazan um, to play center already, and that fills a huge need for them. But um, as far as bigs go, you can have a Japet, you can have a Greg Slaughter, but to have a big in your team doesn't necessarily answer your needs completely. There has to be a complementation. And the way basketball is being played now, a big is just one piece of the puzzle. Um, I can't see, for instance, in the evolution of the game, um, a big man having more of a responsibility than someone who's playing one. I think it's equal responsibilities now for all 5 players on the floor at the same time. And the challenge of every player is to play as many positions as possible. I think the being able to play multiple positions is an asset.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at the players coming to the draft, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for players who can do interchangeable positions, um, players who are not unidimensional. And that's my take on bigs. You can't just be a big guy and and be a low post threat. You've got to be more than just that, because now if you're simply a post threat, you can't be defended, you can't be stopped, and your minutes will be limited for sure. So versatility is now the name of the game in basketball, and as a fan, I think it's great that you see players now who can do many more things on the
Yeah.
floor than just one or two things. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree also because like in the NBA now, you could see Nikola Jokic leading the league in assists, and before centers aren't
Yeah.
really tasked to dish the ball to the guards or set the plays up for the team. But with
Well,
the new
perfect example, of course,
yeah,
is LeBron. He
LeBron
led
also.
he led the NBA in assists
Yeah,
last season, and that's sort of like unheard of because he's a guy who plays 3 and 4,
yeah,
sometimes plays even 5,
yeah,
depending on the matchups. But but I think the Lakers are a perfect example of a team that can tell you how players must be complemented. That in the NBA today, as in FIBA or as in any league, um, gone are the days of a one-man team. You've got
exactly.
to have complementary players.
Hmm.
You've got to have players who understand the game very well. Not just players who can put the ball in the hole, but players who can distribute and players who can do so many other things. So yeah, I think that's important. Yeah, versatility, interchangeability, and players being able to play multiple positions.
So for the last topic that I wanted to tackle for this podcast episode was the Gilas for because they have 3 games in the next window against 2 against Korea and 1 against Indonesia respectively. So as you were addressing, versatility is really a main point in the game today in the Gilas team. It's also very obvious that the versatility is something Coach Tab really wants because Dwight, he can play the 1, he can play the 2, he can play the 3, whatever. And other players also like Baltazar, he wants Baltazar to play the wing. Apparently, he said it in a interview and Coaches Unfiltered. He wanted Baltazar to be a tough wing to defend now and stuff. So what's your take on the Gilas team for this next window? Because they have 6 PBA reinforcements. As you mentioned, Raul Soyud's one of them, along with Troy, Rosario, Pogoy, Kiefer, Justin Chua, and CJ Perez. So what do you think is the team for the February? I mean, we already qualified for the World Cup, but we still want to have good player development. And what do you think is the mix of the team also for Feb?
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said player development because the third window coming up in Clark is for the FIBA Asia Cup, and that's a standalone tournament. That's not a qualifier for the Olympics. It's not a qualifier for the World Cup either. It's simply a zonal or a continental championships.
Mm-hmm.
But you know that used to be called the Asian Basketball Confederation.
Yeah.
Um, and that title was last won by the Philippines in 1986 with Coach Ron Jacobs. So I think it's a good opportunity for Coach Tab and Coach Jong um, to um, to do player development, skills development. Um, I think their idea here is to have a mix of veterans and newcomers who play with heart and who can be versatile. Um, we won't have a Japet Aguilar. We won't have a Jumar Fajardo, obviously. We won't have a Greg Slaughter. But, you know, we'll have players who understand what it's like to play team basketball. And this is something that the Gilas movement is all about. Um, Looking forward to 2023. Um, for the third qualifying window, we understand that Korea is coming with a full force, including Ricardo Ratliff, their
Yeah.
naturalized import.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then that's well and good. Philippines needs just to win 1 out of the 3 games to qualify for the FIBA Asia Cup. There will also be a qualifier among third place finishers for every for every group,
Mhm.
and there are six groups in this qualifying window. Um, so um, with two games against South Korea and one game against Indonesia, uh, by the way, will be coming with the naturalized import Lester Prosper. I think it's a very good challenge for us. Um, First, we'll need someone to match up against the naturalized imports. Both South Korea and Indonesia will come in with naturalized imports. I don't think Kwame will get his naturalization papers on time.
Okay.
So, the question is, will Soyud be able to man the slot for the Philippines and go up against, the big guys from the other team?
Yeah.
That's a challenge. Um, Isaac Go, will he be able to do the job? Um, Obviously, it's going to be a system approach for defense on the part of Gilas. And I would be interested to find out what the final mix will be. No, um, I think Coach Jong, Coach Tab will want a fast team, loaded with shooters, guys who can hit the long ball. I think Javi De Leano, and I don't know if one will check in as well.
He's
But
there
if
in the bubble already. He
oh,
just
is he already
arrived.
there? I'm
He
glad.
just arrived,
Oh,
yeah.
good. Okay,
Yeah.
good. I think one has a lock on one slot in the team, and um, and if you get a lot of good, speedy players with good, outstanding shooting ability, guys who can defend the inside, who can help each other out, like Troy Rosario does, playing with a bigger guy. Um, I think we'll have a good mix. Um, I would have liked perhaps um, more experienced PBA players playing playing on the floor, but given what we've got in Calamba, we'll go by that. Um, we can wish as much as we want, but let's make do with the available talent. Whoever is available and whoever is willing to play for the Philippines is what we've got. And they're in Calamba, they're sacrificing, they're working hard, they're doing twice, three times a day practices, plus weights. So it's not easy. It's not easy. I think whoever will be the final 12 chosen to represent us in the third qualifying window um, will be players whom we can be proud of.
Do you believe it should be around six PBA, six collegiate players, or eight for what do you think is the best mix for you?
Um, I can't put the my finger on any number. I think it will depend on the positions that you need to fill and how important those positions are. If you're looking at, let's say, the point guard position, and that's very important, you'll want to make sure that you have the best available talent who can play the kind of team ball you want,
Yes.
the system type of game that you want to play. So um, if it will mean more non-pros in the team because they're able to fill in the spots that you need to make a complete team-oriented unit, then you go with more non-pros. If you feel that you need more pros to fill in those slots, then you go with more pros. So it will all depend on what the coach feels are the holes you need to fill to make up a team that will work as a unit and who can understand the system that we need to use to beat teams like Indonesia and South Korea.
I also noticed that you said that Kwame might not be able to play for Feb even if he really wanted to already. That's why he's in the bubble. But
Yeah.
Kai Sotto announced in his Instagram page a few days back that he will play in the third window of this qualifying tournament. And what are your thoughts on Kai's insertion to the team? Because yeah, we have a lack of bigs to defend Ricardo Ratcliffe and Lester Prosper. But Kai might be tall, but then he still might not be as a mature player like them because they're already pros. Or and also, what are you along with that? What are your thoughts on Kobe Paras not playing in this bubble? Because I think Baldwin, the coach Tab said that he's not playing due to personal reasons or medical reasons. I'm not sure, they kept changing the term that they used. But what are your thoughts about Kai and Kobe?
Okay, well, for first with Kai, he's been training in the States for over a year now, and he's been he's been locked in. Um, he's in the gym every day. He's getting the kind of training that our players here don't get. So I think he's far advanced as far as his being prepared to see action is concerned. Um, I think it's also a good sign that Kai has expressed willingness to play for Gilas, and that'll mean sacrificing some games in the G League. But yeah, I'm hoping that he can come. I'm hoping that he can come as soon as possible so that he can get the training and the familiarity with his teammates and the coaching system. So anytime you get someone like Kai, who's now what I think is listed 7-3 now
Yeah,
or
he
7-2
grew
at
though. He
least.
grew. Yeah.
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 Anytime you get someone like that with over a year of training in the US, I mean, he trained with Chuck Pearson
Yeah, I saw.
and
Yeah.
some American coaches who are
Yeah.
well known for honing players to be prepared for the big time. So, um, how can you say no to someone like Kai Sotto? So
Yeah.
we welcome him with open arms. As far as Kobe is concerned, he's a very misunderstood player. Um, there was just so much hype on Kobe going to the States, supposedly playing for UCLA, then getting cut, but still playing for Creighton, which is a Division I school, but didn't get the minutes. Um, I just felt that there was just so much pressure, so much high expectations for him to do so much after having won the slam dunk championship in FIBA 3-on-3
Yeah.
and the
I remember. Yeah.
under 19 or
Yeah.
under 18.
Yeah.
So um, the expectation, the prospects of Kobe exploding just didn't happen. He played in the UAAP for UP, but he didn't dominate as people thought he should. But that's not Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's so unfair for all of us to expect so much from Kobe because he's a player who's got tremendous potential, but we need to see that potential realized by showing him the guidance and the right pathway. I think right now he's just confused because there's so many people who are telling him things that could possibly result in getting negative vibes.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
right after the Gilas team came back from the second window, um, I invited 8 players to join my
Oh, I watched that.
Beyond the Game,
Yeah.
Beyond the Game with the
Yeah.
Dean podcast,
Yeah.
and Kobe was the first to decline for
Yeah.
personal reasons. And I told his father Benji, first of all, I'm a friend.
Yeah.
I know Kobe, I know Benji, and I've known them for years. And I said, this would be a good opportunity for Kobe to air his views and because at that time so many people were on him in social media.
Bashing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just thought it was unfair, and his immediate reaction was to back off. And I told Benji, it's his decision, but I'm thinking that this would also be a good opportunity for him to address those issues and to show his maturity because he's still he's a young man who is becoming more and more mature, but hasn't really reached that level yet. So I guess it's a problem that he has to address, and it's a problem that he's facing. And I hope he's able to resolve it right away because, as I said, he's a player with great potential. He's a player with great talent, and you wouldn't want to see him withdraw and retreat. We don't want a reclusive Kobe Paras. We want someone who would be as outgoing as he was when he won that slam dunk championship. We want we want him to play without pressure. We want him to enjoy the game. So I'm just hoping that he finds himself and that he gets good guidance to bring him back into the picture. Um, we respect his decision not to join the Kalamba bubble. We respect his decision not to be so open in media at the moment.
Yeah.
But I feel that when the time comes, um, Kobe will come out and seize the opportunity, seize the moment. Um, we haven't seen the last of Kobe Paras, and I can only see better and brighter things for Kobe in the future.
Yeah, like in his UP stint, people were saying that he's wacko daw when he doesn't pass the ball. I feel he was misunderstood because sometimes nga, he overpasses. Like he's so unselfish when he has an open layup or dunk, he dish it out, and then his teammates not ready for the ball, and then they turn the ball over. And I think he's more of a team player also because in Gilas, like in the previous window, I saw that he wasn't really comfortable playing the four. I think he was tasked to play the four in the previous window, and but then he accepted it even if he really, I believe deep inside he wanted to play the three because Dwight was playing the three and he was excelling. Javi was playing the three and he excelled in the second game. So I believe that Kobe also wanted that opportunity because he knows he has the skill set and the talent to make his doubter to prove his doubters wrong. As you were saying, he's like one of the most bashed athlete basketball players here in the Philippines, but maybe they just don't understand the side that he's coming from. And maybe that's also the reason why he doesn't really want to get interviewed much anymore because maybe people misconstrued what he says and they say random stuff about him on social media, and maybe he gets affected by it also mentally.
I think we should just be patient with him.
Yeah.
He's finding himself. I think his father Benji is giving him good advice and guidance. So um, let's wait for his opportunity. I think his time will come, and I see, as I said, I see better and brighter days ahead for Kobe.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah. For this what do you call this? This iteration of the Gilas team, it's in preparation for 2023, the 2023 FIBA World Cup. So what do you think is the chances from now, like 2 years, even if it's still in 2 years and we're hosting, what are the chances of us reaching at least the second round? Because the two editions we kind of failed because in the first one we could have made it. Second, we were really bad. So how do you think is the outlook of the team and the composition of the team, as I alluded to a while ago for this window? But then, how about for 2023? Do you believe we should still get players like Matthew Wright, players like Bobby Ray Parks? Because they won't be that young at that time, and we made the special Gilas draft, this cadets team with Juan, Javi, Dwight, etc. So, what do you think is the approach for the 2023 FIBA World Cup?
Everything will be dependent on how these players develop. I think, however, that once 2023 comes around, we'll still need someone like a Matthew Wright. He'll be more mature, more confident. I think he'll be deadlier when the time comes. But it also depends on his health. It also depends on whether he's still hungry, whether he still wants to play as hard as he's playing right now. But I think our choice of a naturalized player will also be a focal point to consider. Um, I felt that in the 2019 FIBA World Cup, and I saw that from firsthand because I was fortunate to be
Commentate.
invited by FIBA
Yeah.
to do the World Cup
Yeah.
games for the global audience, and Andre Blatch was an eyesore, and I'll tell you right off the bat, he should not have been there.
Yeah.
We should have done everything we could to bring in Jordan Clarkson.
Clarkson.
The idea was Blatch was tall and he could give a ceiling, and Clarkson, isn't the stall. But that's not the game now. It's not the game now. Look at what Blatch tried to do. He was shooting from
Attacking.
threes.
Yeah,
And what's he
attacking from
doing?
outside.
Yeah, so I thought that was a mistake. If Jordan Clarkson had have played for us, I guarantee we would have won at least one game in the
Yes.
World Cup. I guarantee. If we
Angola.
had
Yeah.
played Georgia,
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
Angola was a gunner.
Yeah.
But that's water under the bridge. Um, so my point of saying that we need to make the right decision as to who our naturalized player will be. Um, I understand that the SPP continues to knock on FIBA's door to get Jordan Clarkson classified as a local, which he should be. The guy has Filipino heritage. He has relatives in the Philippines. It doesn't matter that he was born in the US. The guy has Filipino lineage.
Mm.
He has a Philippine passport. What more do you want?
Mhm.
He wants to represent the Philippines. He has represented the Philippines
Yeah.
in the Asian
Yeah.
Games.
Yeah.
So I think Jordan Clarkson has to be in our team, whether as a naturalized import or as a local player. He's got to be there. That's my starting point. From there, you go on down the line. You need a Judmar Fajardo, even if he's going to be in his mid 30s by then. I think you need experienced veterans, someone who can handle the pressure, someone who can go up against world class competition. This is not going to be just FIBA Asia level of competition. This is the world competition. We're going up against the world's best. So, and we're playing in our home country. So, we need a Japet Aguilar. We need a Matthew Wright. We need a Pogoy. If those guys are still up to their A game, those guys have to be there. And if some of the cadets, some of the new players of Gilas show that they're capable of playing at that level of competition,
Yeah.
maybe by then they will be in the PBA. Maybe by then they will have had more mileage as Gilas players. Then Coach Tab and Coach Jong and whoever will be our head coach will make the decision right there and then as to who will best qualify to represent our country. But again, it's not just individual talents, it's who can play within the system we want for our team, the system that can make us excel on the international platform. And um, and if that means bringing together a bunch of cadets to play with experienced veterans, then so be it. But my point is, Clarkson has to be there. I know it's going to take a lot. We'll have to pay a huge premium in insurance for him to play for the Philippines.
Yeah.
But I think the Utah Jazz will allow him to play in the same way that he was allowed to play for the Philippines in the Asian Games. And he will be a major reason why the Philippines will be competitive in 2023. And let's hope that from now until 2023, he continues to play at the level that he's playing right now and that he remains injury free. Because the way Jordan Clarkson is playing the NBA right now, I mean, this guy's a killer. He
Yeah.
is a killer.
6th man of the year, leading candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a killer.
So we're already 90 minutes in. It's been a really long conversation. And I really want to
Mhm.
thank you, just the Dean, for accepting the invitation, even if you're very busy with all the articles I've been also reading for Philippine Star. And I really learned
Mhm.
a lot from the insights that you've shared with me today. And also to the viewers when I post this podcast in the next week. And I hope that they'll also learn a lot because you said some news that I believe others really don't know yet much about. So I hope that you'll also be able to continue sharing your thoughts and insights because people will learn a lot from you, not only in basketball, but also in the sporting world. And also these lessons that you've been teaching, I think it could be applied also in life, even if they're not sports aficionados like the both of us. So do you have like a final message to the viewers and to me also before we go?
Well, thank you very much, Diego, for inviting me. I
Yeah,
know it took some time before I accepted, but
it's
I
okay.
just wanted to make sure that I had a good grasp
Yeah,
of the situation with the UAP because I knew you were going to ask me about our LaSalle team. I knew you were going to ask me about the UAP, and
yeah,
if I had come out earlier, then I wouldn't have had a good grasp of things. And um, right now I do have a good grasp of things.
yeah.
We've just come out of a meeting yesterday, so I thought I could share a lot more now than if I had appeared earlier. But yeah, thank you for this opportunity. Um, I'm always happy to talk sports with anyone, with you especially, since we both come from the same school and you have this platform. Um, Anyone who wants to get in touch with me, um, I'm always very willing to talk sports, because it's something that's very important in life. I think um, I can't seem, I will never see myself in a situation when walking in the mall or in the stadium, when someone comes up to me and asks for my opinion about a hot sports topic. I will never see myself walking away. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just it's a
natural.
wonderful it's a
Yeah.
wonderful opportunity for me to be able to interact with people who love sports as much as I do. And so I'm always a willing listener, a willing interactor in podcasts like this, in situations where, even if not in media, anytime anyone wants to just come up and talk sports, um, it's my life, it's our life, it's very important in the world, and let's promote it. Let's promote sports. I think there are values to be learned, and we all become better people because of sports.
How about I forgot because I usually ask my guests this also, like two
Yeah.
questions that aren't related to sports at all, but
Okay.
it's from the All the Smoke podcast. The first one is if there are five dinner guests that you'd want to have a good conversation, like wine and fine dining, dead or alive, like locally also internationally, who would you want to have dinner with to learn more
Okay.
about sports?
All right. Five.
Yes.
Five. Oh my gosh. Uh, First, I'd want John Lennon
Yeah.
to be in that table.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of especially British music dating back to the '60s. So I watched concerts of all of these British pop artists from decades past, and I'd want to be able to sit down with John Lennon. I think I'd want to meet with Barack Obama,
Yeah.
because I've always been an admirer of
Yeah.
his, and the many initiatives he did when he was U.S. president, and he would be a great person to sit down with. Third, I would want to sit down with Muhammad Yunus. He was the founder of Grameen. He's had his ups and downs in terms of what he tried to do in microfinance, which is my field of profession.
Yeah. I saw.
um, and I met him actually in the first World Microcredit Summit in Washington, D.C. But that was back in 1997. At the height of his popularity, he's sort of fallen from grace since then. But I'd certainly like to find out about his life and his travails and his adventures in microfinance, particularly with Grameen. Um, I think I'd like to sit down again with Michael Jordan, because I think he's the greatest player ever. I think um, better than Kobe, better than LeBron could ever hope to be. I think Michael Jordan. I've had the honor and privilege of interviewing him at least three times on a face-to-face basis. So, um, I want to find out from him what he thinks, how basketball has evolved from the time that he retired to how it is now. Um, he is an owner of an NBA team, and I can't see the Charlotte Hornets ever becoming a championship contender. So I want to find out from him, uh, what's he doing with a low lifer like the Charlotte team,
Yeah.
and how he'd like to do something to improve that situation. Um,
Last one more.
lastly, huh, lastly, I'd like to meet my mother again. I lost my mother. She was 104 years old this year, and you know, I I lost her last year, rather, and I really haven't cried losing her, and I think now is the time when
Hmm.
I'm beginning to cry.
It's okay.
But I'd
It's
like to
okay.
see my mother again,
Yeah.
just to tell her how happy um and proud I am to be her son. So yeah, I guess those would be the five people that I'd like to have dinner with. But while having dinner with those five people, I'd like my wife Mechu to be with me at the same time.
Okay. So for the final question, I also ask my guests these, and they also give good answers. So who should I guess on the show? Since I'm just starting, I don't really have that good connections like you or other media members. Who are some athletes or coaches or media members I could guess? And it doesn't need to be basketball only. It could be any sport related. So who are some guests that would give good insights or has a good life story or career story also?
I think without a doubt you need to get Manny Pacquiao. I think he's an incredible individual. He's extremely difficult to pin down to be a guest on any
Mm-hmm.
podcast.
Yeah.
Um, I've I've gone to visit him in his house. I talked with him on the phone, but I tried to get him on my own show,
Yeah.
and you know he couldn't commit because he's just such a busy guy.
Yeah, he has a
But
lot of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
he is one person who I feel is a major figure um, in the Philippine landscape today. And I'm not just talking about sports. I'm talking about Philippine life, government, um, being an influencer. Um, for him to be able to share his story with your listeners and with you would be such an amazing experience. I've had the opportunity to cover most of his fights overseas, right by the ring apron for Philippine TV. So I have been privileged to do that. And a few days before his birthday last December, um, I went over to visit him in his house, and we were together for maybe about an hour and a half, just the two of us talking about the Philippine economy, what the Philippines needs to become a better country, what the Filipino people need to become better people, and just him relating how he struggled in life from when he hardly had any food to eat when he was a boy to what he has become now, and how he was able to transform himself from being a quote unquote bad guy to a good guy. I mean, you could not see a better person who could tell you what it's like to come from being down in the dumps to a position where you can influence an entire nation. And for me, he's the ultimate. He's the ultimate. Um, you want someone to talk to in a podcast who can give you insights, who can share with you a lifetime of experiences, his ups and downs. It would have to be the current super WBA welterweight champion, Senator
Yeah.
Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much again, the Dean, for guesting. Sorry it took so long because I really wanted to learn a
Nandun,
lot from you,
nandun.
and you have so many insights and so many suggestions also and comments on various sports topics. So thank you again. And is it okay if we take one picture?
Sure, yeah,
A
please.
screenshot. Okay.
Yeah, and send it to me too.
Okay, sure. Okay. One, two, three. Okay, thank you so
All
much
right.
again.
Thank
If
you. Thank
yeah,
you.
if you have any last message, you could say it now.
Uh, Oh, well, my last message is for all your viewers to continue following sports, to continue loving sports and participating in sports. And when I say participating, it doesn't mean to be necessarily an active participant, but someone who believes in following sporting events, because you can learn a lot from sports. You can learn a lot from the lives of athletes. and it it always helps to be physically fit. So sports is a way of life, and I think we can all become better people if we embrace the values of sports. Thanks very
Okay.
much.
Thank you so much again. And I hope to talk to you soon again about sports again when there's like new developments and new topics.
Anytime.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you,
Bye.
Diego.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
regards to your family.
Okay, I'll tell them.